BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we'll be answering about that team in our August 21st preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got the Mineral Wells Rams.
Yeah, one of five new schools being added to the Big Country Preps coverage area this school year, and one that is coached by a familiar face with Coach Cody Worrell over there, who used to be on the staff over at Brock for his dad not long ago. He's now the head coach now for the last couple of years at Mineral Wells, and in the process of trying to build a program over there. They went 4-6 last year, and he's got a solid group back from that bunch with 20 of their 41 lettermen returning. Included among those are 4 offensive and 8 defensive starters. Obviously, in a tough district with Graham and Brock, so he's going to have a challenge on his hands this year. But it should be an interesting season, seeing how they navigate that. So we're going to talk about some of the biggest questions they face here in just a few minutes. But I'm excited to have Mineral Wells in the mix, and excited to have Coach Worrell back in the fold.
Before we get going on tonight's show, we want to remind you YouTubers to please hit the subscribe button. After that, please hit that little bell so you'll get notifications each and every time that Big Country Preps comes up with a new video. And also, we'd like to thank a couple of our sponsors, beginning with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of KLAX 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, give Rob a shout at 254-559-2266. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. That is Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's talk about the Mineral Wells Rams and some of the biggest questions facing this bunch here in the 2024 season. And I'll just start at the top. This is year 2 now for Coach Worrell. I'm just interested to see kind of what progress they've made just in terms of the general progress you make from year 1 to year 2. I think you often see quite a bit of improvement just from, the kids knowing the staff better, the kids knowing the expectations better. And I'm just excited to see kind of, if the recall shows this year in the results. Obviously, they're going to have some holes to fill, some key players lost to graduation last year. But I think it's going to be a fun season just watching this program and this team grow.
All right. One of the questions that I would have for Mineral Wells is they have to rebuild their entire offensive line, which is never easy to do. And it affects your entire offense and how it goes. And if you have one link in the chain that isn't doing their job, it can just blow everything up. So that's a very tough task that Mineral Wells is facing. So that's the big question that I would have. This new group of offensive linemen coming in, how quickly can they start clicking, and playing together, clicking on all cylinders, because that's what makes your offense go, period.
Yeah, I think it's a good question because I think they do have some nice skill weapons. You got Owen Gadd back at the quarterback position after a nice junior season last year. You've got a running back in Caden Montalvo who had a little bit of success, a couple of talented receivers, Preston Harrison, a Texas Tech commit, and then Caden Caspar. You've got some kids who can make plays, but you're right. Somebody's going to have to block and run interference for those guys if they're going to have the success they hope to. And that kind of leads to the last question I have, and it's on the other side of the football. They've got 8 starters back on defense, so presumably you'd expect that unit to be improved from last year's group. And I'm just wondering if that group can be improved enough to kind of carry the load early in the season as this offense, and particularly the offensive line, finds its footing. I think if the defense can make the type of strides that you hope it would from year 1 to year 2 with this many players back, that may take some pressure off the offense to where it doesn't have to be perfect, where it can work through some of those growing pains early, so that by district time they're ready to compete for a playoff spot.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick look at Mineral Wells' schedule for 2024. We'll begin in the non-district portion, and this is a non-district portion that I like for Mineral Wells, Dan. It's not a row of cupcakes. There are some opportunities for wins there, and it will give them time to get that offensive line going before they go into district play, maybe with a little bit of momentum. They will open August 30th at Fort Worth Polytechnic. They'll then have 3 straight home dates, actually 2 straight home dates. The third will be a neutral site Iowa Park and Fort Worth Eastern Hills will come in on September 6th and the 13th, followed by a neutral site game against Quinlan Ford on the 20th at Arlington's Choctaw Stadium. And their final non-district game will be against Godley on September 27th, and that's going to be on the road.
And that's a Godly team will be coached by former Clyde coach Danny Dudgeon, so a friend of the big country there. And then after their open date on October 4th, they will open district with a home game against Bridgeport, followed by another home game against Brock. They will then travel to Graham on October 25th before coming back home on November 1st to face Saginaw Eagle Mountain. And then they will wrap up their regular season schedule November 8th at Burke-Burnett. So they got a tough stretch there in the games 2 and 3 in district with Brock and Graham back to back. But I think those other three are going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
All right, game of the year. Dan, we've been going through this and picking a game of the year for every team that we cover. It is Mineral Wells' turn. We're taking a look at their schedule right now. What is that one game that you think is the most important for them to win this year?
Well, I'm going to cheat. I'm gonna go to two. I'm going to go with the bookends of their district schedule. I think the Bridgeport game is one that if you want to make the playoffs, you pretty much have to win that one right off the bat. And then I'm going to go with that Burke-Burnett game in the regular season finale, a road game, which could well be for that fourth playoff spot. So I think those two games, you got to find a way to win those. The middle third of that schedule is going to be a tough go when you got Brock, you got Graham, and then even that Saginaw Eagle Mountain team is going to be talented. So I think that the first and last game of the district schedule, to me, I think are going to be the big ones to circle.
Yeah, I still think that Eagle Mountain in its first year with a bunch of young kids is going to be maybe an unknown commodity. And I was going to kind of cheat as well, but I was going to go with Bridgeport in the first game and Eagle Mountain next because if you can beat both of them, at least you're in, you know. But then again, if they fail to beat Eagle Mountain and Eagle Mountain is the surprise that you think they might be, then Burke-Burnett is another one. If you can top them, you're in. But Brock and Graham would be a tall order for anybody in that league.
Yeah, those two are going to be really tough, like you said, for anybody. But I do think there are opportunities in this district schedule for Mineral Wells to get some wins and potentially get into the playoffs, which I think would be a big step forward for them.
All right, and with that, it's about time to wrap up this edition of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Mineral Wells Rams. But before we do that, we want to remind you that August 21st is the big day here at Big Country Preps. That's the day we release our preseason football preview, which we have previews for all of our 11-man teams. We cover all 45 of them. We'll have a ton of previews, feature stories. We'll have opinion pieces. We'll have predictions. We'll have stats, standings, lots of photos, lots of videos. It is a ton of material, the most comprehensive look at high school football in the Big Country area that you'll find in any media source. And we're welcoming, as Dan will soon tell you, Mineral Wells, of course, is now in their first year, among others.
Yes, adding 5 new schools, Mineral Wells, Glen Rose, Graham, Toller, and Miles. So we are really excited to be adding those 5 to our coverage area. We hope y'all are excited to follow our coverage of those schools throughout the school year. In the meantime, thank you for joining us for this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Days series. And make sure you come back tomorrow when we talk about the Glen Rose Tigers here at BigCountryPreps.com.